Hi, this is Vicki with Learning Home Volunteers. This learning session, we have designed a learning session for your little one to learn more about themselves. What do you say? Don't they already know who they are? Well, like all of us, they are still working on their self image and what their strengths and limitations are. They are learning what we have in common with others and those things that appear to be unique to just us. And as they're working on acquiring language, they're also learning to put words to those thoughts. But until that is done, we can provide ways for them expressing their sense of self through art. And this week, we're going to actually explore the child's image of themselves in art. But first, we have three great books, all about the marvelous things that make them up. Our first book explores and celebrates liking yourself for who you are. This book by Karen Beaumont has great pictures and different situations, but all remind us that we are exactly who we are supposed to be. Our next book um, explores all the super things our bodies can do and how our bodies help us be the superhero we are. The last book, You Be You, is written by Linda Krantz and is about a fish who notices on her way home how we're all different and yet we have so many things in common. Well, this is activity number one, tracing your body. And in your box, you're going to find a roll of paper that's long and wide enough to trace your child onto paper. It will help when they lay down on top of the paper for them to put their arms out to the side and to separate their legs a little bit. That way, you'll be able to trace all of their limbs and their body. You can do this on a table, do it on the ground, whichever works easiest for you. Once the outline is done, it is time to dress it and make it look like them. They can use their markers, their crayons, and the material that you'll find in bag number one, or maybe even some construction paper you find in your teacher's kit. Now, depending on the age of your child and the personality of the child, they may spend hours on this activity getting it to look just as close as they are. Or maybe they'll just paint their fingernails and that'll be it. We've actually seen it all. Let me show you some of the things that we've actually seen. Here's a couple of examples. This one actually used socks because they couldn't find their markers or paper. This one decided to color it one color for each limb, all of which are great. We would love it if you could hang the picture up on the wall and then take a picture of the child next to themselves as they see themselves in their art. Don't forget all the really cool things you could do with this. You could have them sign their picture. You could have them measure themselves using Unifix cubes. They could make clothes for themselves. So many choices. Now, this is activity number two. We're going to be making a self portrait, and in your bag, number two, you'll find yarn, crinkle paper, some blank faces. The job is really for your child to make a self portrait, and they can do this obviously from a photograph, or they can look at themselves in the mirror. Their choice for the easiest way to get inspiration. Next, using the blank faces and the materials provided and their glue and their scissors, they have all they need to make a self-portrait. And here are some from a classroom's activity using the materials that we provided. I've seen this activity also done with sticks and stones, natural materials like greenery, and even cardboard, all of which produce, as you can see, delightful representations of themselves. So feel free to include or use different kinds of materials than what we may have provided. I've also seen it done on cereal boxes where they use that square as kind of the beginning of their stuff so it can actually stand up, which is kind of neat. And I've even seen tracing their face on a piece of acrylic film so that they can actually see how they are when they're flattened out. We would love, obviously, to see your child's self portrait and what it looks like, so please be sure to post up on Class Tag. Now, this is activity number 3, making handprints. We provided 3 pieces of cardstock, and which will, actually take paint very well. And we thought you might want to help your child record their handprint. The easiest way to get a handprint is actually to paint on the hand. Now, this tickles, and some children don't like this at all. And if your children doesn't like it, or does like it, you can certainly go ahead and paint it as one color or multiple colors. And when it's wet, go ahead and press the hand onto the paper like shown. Press each of the fingers down individually to get a really good image. Okay, so maybe your child doesn't like wet paint on the palm of their hand. You can still get a reverse by printing their hand on paper and then splattering off with a toothbrush or a brush around it using a knife, so that when they remove the hand, what we get is the reverse of that. Um, and minus that, you could certainly trace the hand and they can actually paint it. Or maybe you want to capture your own family with a family handprint picture. For these, you need to dry them in play in between each person. So one person puts their handprint, they let it dry, and then you actually do the next one, and so forth and so on. Or maybe on the right hand side, you'd like to see the difference between your hand and others. You want to do yours first and then let it dry, and then add a different color and add your child's hand. Or maybe paint isn't your thing at all. You can certainly trace out the handprints on paper and then cut them out. And then this one shows here a handprint over many years. Well, that's quite a lot, isn't it? A lot of really good art things. Next week, a little bingo and a lot of activity. Talk to you then.